welcome in Line by Line today. We are hosting a special new guest, Algernon. Hello, Algernon.
Hello.
We met on Awakening from the Meaning Crisis Discord server, and the link is provided below. If you will ever want to reach out to Algernon afterwards, you can find him there. Would you tell a little bit about yourself, and why did you choose the song which you picked for today?
Okay.
And the song is Aloha Ke Akua by Nahko and the Medicine for the People.
So I go by Algernon online, and I'm a fifth decade software engineer who's decided that that was just the first career, and then I went into scuba diving and sort of exploring the natural world. That's always been a theme for me. And then recently I've been exploring a number of different art modalities: painting, sculpting, sanding, things that don't have names. But so now artist, and then just sort of really engaging with philosophy.
Yeah, and that's how we met.
Yeah. And so the Awakening from the Meaning Discord crisis, the community that's formed there is it's been part of my development.
By the way, the paintings behind you, they are yours, right? Like I do know the pink one is the water. Purple one, sorry, the purple one is water, and the other one is the tree.
Yeah, I don't want to change my camera angle to point at it right now, but one of them, they're both mine. One's a photo. This one is a photo. Well, it's hard to point behind you. It was a cooperative art piece between me and, let's call her Gaia, where I was at the beach and there was a big puddle that was draining at the ocean beach. And so it was just sort of, tidal flow that was flowing out, and it was shifting the sands and coloring in the sand because it was shifting with the weights. And I was like, oh, okay, I got to do something with that. And so I started redirecting where the water was coming out to see if I could basically paint or help her paint. And then at night I lit it up with these digital candles, and so all the texture in there is just tidal flow. Like, that's all Mother Nature drawing that.
It's gorgeous.
So it was wonderful. So this is one of the examples of, you're like, is that, what level of art is that? Is it photography? I don't know.
No, it is beautiful.
Thank you. I agree. She did a great job at that.
I would like to see more of your work, somewhere structured, let's say, even if it's an Instagram gallery that you will create for yourself in the future, and I will add it to this YouTube video or any other video in the future.
That might be a good way to do it. We can jump through some of the different things. Yeah. So the song. So my journey brought me to the server, my interest in philosophy, and then the meditation group. So I was part of the live meditation group with John Vervaeke that he did online on YouTube. And something about it being live just transformed it. Even though it wasn't super interactive, the chat interacts with one another, and there was probably about 10, 15 of us in there, and meeting up with people every day and just greeting each other, and then meditating, and then John giving little Dharma talks. And it was a wonderful experience. And it's all available to everybody because it's all recorded. It's on YouTube under John Vervaeke, this meditation course, free.
The Discord is below.
Yeah, there you go. Link below. So at one point in there, I was doing the meditation every day and I wanted music. And part of my ecology of practices that evolved was listening really deeply to the music, listening to harmonies, and then also with this head thing, with the headset, I can hear my own voice. And something about being able to hear your own voice as you're singing is pretty powerful. And so I would I started looking for songs and trying to build. I have these playlists that I keep where if there's a phrase in a song that is in and of itself a message that I want to give myself in the future, then I sort of adopt that song and I'll put it in a playlist, and then occasionally, basically, I'll get that sentiment echoed back to me. And they're usually useful things. And this song had some of that in it, which is how it originally ended up on the song. And the way it ties into the meditation is I actually overlaid this for a while with John's meditation. So there's a part of the practice where we do like a moving, a seated Tai Chi. And so I combined that with this music. And so now I have mental associations with this song, with the meditative state, with the Tai Chi. And they're all just kind of linked together. So because I've practiced this, it's almost like dancing.
Yeah.
So that's where the song came from. It's part of that big list. And this one in particular just really strikes a lot of chords with me. So
Also the piano thing.
Yes. There's something about really simple, it's so small and it leaves a lot of space around it, all the notes, and you can hear the notes carry and how they interact if you listen carefully. Something about piano that has struck me recently. It hasn't always been like that for me, but in the last couple of years.
Or for me, piano is like it's your fingertips.
Mm.
They hit, and you can hear every note, but you can also know that it had been touched by somebody's hand. Like it's magical for me.
Yeah, something very direct about it.
Yeah.
There's one that I want to do, by the way, a line by line. We'll have to do it as a special episode. It doesn't have any
Next
lyrics.
episode of Line by Line.
It has no lyrics.
Oh.
But it's piano. But it says a lot of stuff.
It's projections based on in between the notes. Call it Line by Line, special edition.
There you go. The message between the text.
Yeah.
So this particular song, I'm also drawn to songs where I don't necessarily have a propositional understanding of every aspect of the song. There's some poetry in it or something that's ambiguous is too awkward a word. It's just something that's not fully crystallized. It's not like, here's exactly the story. And this, so I'm drawn to songs that have stuff like that. Sometimes that are in foreign languages. I'm like, like I can tell what they're saying, sort of, but you can feel what they're saying pretty obviously. And this song with, I assume it's some kind of Hawaiian, with Aloha Ke Akua. And so, I don't know, it leaves poetic space. My left brain can stay out of it.
Okay, would you like to read the first stanza to analyze it?
Sure. Lend your ears, lend your hands, lend your movement, anything you can. Come to teach, come to be taught, come in the likeness and the image of God. Because you can be like that with all that humbleness and all that respect.
Yeah.
So when I first started listening to this song and they would get to that, anytime you see the word God, I have so many stories in my head. I was raised sort of Catholic and then rejected it and then piled the rejection of the Catholic Church in with everything religious, and just sort of threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm.
And now I see that as not being quite apropos. Like there's plenty of room for God outside of organized religions for me. And there's an awful lot of wisdom there in those religions. So anyway, so when it got to the come in the likeness and the image of God, I'm like, uh-oh. Like, is that, I don't know. Why does that resonate with me? And it made me kind of, I don't know, afraid, awkward. It's like, are you trying to be godlike? What is that? And then I realized, I was like, yeah, it's image of God. You know, it's like trying to do the good things, trying to, you know, trying to do what's right as far as you have to go with all that. Anyway, that particular line always struck me. And now it's a lot easier. And I don't think I'm God. I just think it's, you know, because it's about lend your ears, lend your hands. Basically, it's it's inviting you to contribute to something.
Yeah.
What more do you see there?
I see the thing that stands out to me is come to teach, come to be taught with all that humbleness and all that respect. Like those two join for me. And they do it because I always feel like a child who discovers the world and learns. I'm still not yet happy with myself, so I would not even compare myself to the image of God. So, and then humbleness and respect comes in as like, oh, humbleness, respect explains why you're not yet ready for the image of God.
The idea of being both a teacher and a student, you know, that strikes me as like, all right, there's the balance.
Yeah.
That I can live with. Shall we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All of the power invested in me, be it hard to love my enemies. All of the black bags over the heads of the dead and dying. It actually reminds me of state I had been in when the war in Ukraine started. Is the thing of to love my enemies, but I had to change my way of thinking about people, and the way I did it is just like stopped seeing them as enemies. That's it. Like they were like just other guys and girls, and over there on a different periphery of understanding reality than I am. And that's the only way I could accept them. Not to go as far as love them, but I would be able to accept them.
Right. It's toward that anyway.
What do you see, Matthew?
It really, either way is good. I mean, the when we're going through these lyrics this way, you know, it separates it from the music, and then this part of the music is really sad. I mean, it's like this is painting some disaster. I was kind of surprised when I first saw this because I was bringing it, you know, into the current context. But this song was written years ago. It's like 5-10 years old. So it predates everything that's going on now. But there's always something going on where people are ending up in body bags, and so that's the black bags over the heads of the dead and dying as body bags. And I think it sort of sets up the bigger context that we'll get into. But like, this is the low note. This is the, let's go on. The more I understand about the human race, the less I comprehend about our purpose and place. And maybe if there was a clearer line, the curiosity would satisfy. When I read that, first of all, it's talking about things like at the level of the human race, which is not common in a lot of songs where you're considering things at that level. And so, I take that sort of sets the scope of the thing. And then this comprehending of a purpose and place, and there being satisfactory or a satisfied curiosity, that strikes me as, this is like the rational part of my mind wanting to say, oh, it's like this, that's how it is. And then you go, oh, now I understand it. I got my logic, my rational. It's like you're striving to try to understand something with rationality that is not going to yield to rationality. And so the more I understand about the human race, the less I comprehend. That's what's ringing there for me. This is not kind of not to be understood at a fully rational level.
I mean, I always think that the purpose would be the understanding of others. So if his purpose would be to understand others, then he would be less focused on comprehending it. He would just leave it. He would keep understanding other people, connecting to them. That's how I read that line.
Interesting. Yeah, and the more connected you are to people, and the more that you see how dynamic and changing and flowing and all that they are, and then you go, oh, all the symbolic ideas I had about that person's an accountant. I know what an accountant is like. And you realize it's all just really dumb, stereotypical stories. The more you know somebody, the more complicated they get.
Yeah. Curiosity would satisfy. The most interesting thing about this universe would be the people. They're the most mysterious and the most interesting. I think that's what he says in this line. But I might be fully on projecting here too. So
I think when this is part of the reason I like these songs where there's some fuzzy stuff in there, is that you're always projecting.
Yeah.
Whatever you're encountering. And this has a lot of space for you to project into. You want to do the next part?
Sure. Time-based prophecies that kept me from leaving in the moment I'm struggling to trust the divinity of all the guides and what the hell they have planned for us. Well, time-based prophecies. I keep trying to understand what it means for me. I do understand each individual word.
Right.
What do you see
struggle.
in it? The same struggle.
Yeah, like time-based prophecies. I mean, what? The one that I have is where we say, like, oh man, someday I'm gonna. That's time-based prophecy.
Future
like,
plans.
Someday this thing's gonna happen, or I'm gonna do that, or I want to do that, or that's the time-based prophecy. And when he said time-based prophecies, it keeps me from living. It's like, because you're living in this time,
you're expecting stuff from yourself instead of like asking yourself, what do you actually want to do?
Or you just spend your time just asking. You're like, just someday I'm gonna do that, but you're not doing it.
But listen. So time-based prophecies. So you would like have those goals that you will like, by this age I have achieved that, by this age I have achieved that, by this age I have achieved that. So those are
Yeah.
time-based prophecies that he makes for himself, and then he would like struggle to achieve, to live up to their own expectations.
Yeah.
And this would keep him from actually living his dreams and life, because he put all those timeline things, bucket list goals, I don't know, assigning to certain life periods, and they would prevent him from following his true path.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Like if you decide, oh, my life is going to be this, and then I'm going to get married, and then I'm going to do that, and it's going to be a house, and be a dog, and that's one scaffolding. That's one way to do it. But if you're just following that pattern, then that's you're not open to all the other possibilities. And so that's the line about kept me from living. That's part. So this is one of those phrases where when I hear this song later on and I'm just doing something else, occasionally some phrase of this will pop out. And that's one of them where it goes, time-based prophecies kept me from living. And I'll be like, uh-oh, do things. You don't just think about it. And then the second part of this, trust the divinity. I'm not a formally religious person, but spiritual like crazy now. And so trusting the divinity of all the guides, that line just strikes me as kind of funny. And then, he's being a little flippant there. And what the hell do they have planned for us?
Yeah. I cry for the creatures who get left behind, but everything will change in a blink of an eye. And if you wish to survive, you will find the guide inside. Like I attach it to the previous lines somehow, because instead of listening to all the other guides and whatever they planned for us, I think he means the society and the norm of the ways of living. You will find a guide inside who will tell you what you actually meant for. So that's the thing. Like he goes, I cry for the creatures who get left behind. And again, fully projecting on here, Algernon, because those creatures were attracted to that singer because of his inner guide. But then he was like, my life plans were that, so you all will be left behind because I need to achieve goals of other guides.
Okay.
That's again projection. What do you see?
I like that. I like how much different paths you can get here. For me, I cry for the creatures who get left behind. Kind of echoes of, I don't know who the famous person is who said that. An unexamined life is not worth living. And that's the way that line reads to me, as like people who are, you could say, asleep or just not really considering these things deeply, that there's so much there. And so getting left behind is basically never realizing any of that. You're just going about and going about life in a sort of a superficial way. And everything will change in the blink of an eye strikes me as a reminder of how much we live in a mental world, a mental reality. And man, I could go on about realities, but so that the mental part of our realities can change in a blink of an eye. Like you can change your mind and go, oh, that's not what I thought it was. And so that's that line to me. Everything will change in a blink of an eye. And if you wish to survive, you will find the guide inside. And that's like John Vervaeke talking to me, where he says you need to internalize the sage. And we had some part of the practice that was that in meditation. And so when it says find the guide inside, I'm like, right, got it.
Hashtag John. I'm getting.
Yeah, that's right. Hashtag John Vervaeke. And John will be the first one to tell you that none of these ideas are his. And then he'll give you an encyclopedic level list of the places that you all came from. How he does that, I do not know.
I'm totally tagging John for breaking that video, dude.
Oh, perfect. I'd love for him to see this. Let's see, I gotta do one.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and forth every single day. The clarity, it comes to me in a choppy way. As the feelings and the places and the seasons change, the galaxies remain. Oh, that's stanza.
Beautiful, right?
It is so much poetry here. To me, this is like when you get a feeling of, oh, I understand it. Like you feel a little more awake to the world. And then, 20 minutes later, you're upset because your cat's sick or something, and you're just absorbed with that moment. And you sort of go back and forth. Like sometimes you feel really in touch and awake to the world in a broad way. And other times, not so much. Other times, very asleep and automatic. And so this going back and forth every single day, the clarity comes to me in a choppy way, that rung that bell for me. I was like, yep. Do that all the time. And then the feelings and the places and the seasons change and the galaxies remain. That to me that's pointing at divinity. That's like when you go all the way out. To me, I don't know if you've ever seen the Hubble deep field imagery.
I've seen.
Where you realize that all the little dots and swirls are galaxies.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a very tangible thing to hook in your brain to say, the scales here are much more immense than me. There is organization at levels far, far beyond anything that my life is going to touch. And that's the divine. And so for me, that's what that sentence is about. The feelings and the places and the seasons change is what you're experiencing, but the galaxies remain. This much larger thing from which we all sprung.
I always feel like the true understanding of reality is kind of choppy. So it resonated a lot. But the thing that is constant is galaxies, not even the seasons. Seasons will keep changing, and the way our Earth will kind of mature through millennia, everything will change. But the galaxies will keep on being, as far as we know, eternally, forever. And that's the thing, like the reality is choppy and confusing, but there is some constant, and constant is the eternity of the big thing, of the divine, of the galaxies. Yeah.
The way you're hearing choppy makes me think of like sampling. Like there's this really rich world, and the best we can do is just like, oh, I got a little bit, I got a little bit, I got a little bit.
Sampling. Yeah.
It's interesting because I've not been through these lyrics as lyrics. Like I've heard the song, and when he goes through this part, it's kind of fast and the words get a little muddled. So these are actually a little bit fresh for me. Energy fields pulling up out of this space. The angels that are a couple to the spiritual waste, the hate that gets me distant from my spiritual pace. And I'll go on there because it's kind of related. Tenfold in the mono when the planets are in place in polar alignment. We're on assignment. Bodies on consignment. Return them to the circus.
Yeah.
So in the song, like this part is really like the tone changes. It goes from a very soft kind of an exploratory and talking about the galaxies and our part in the whole thing. And then this is like, okay, but what are we going to do here? That's what it feels like to me. The one phrase of this that really, this body's on consignment part is the part that usually resonates strongly. The idea that like, it's to think of our bodies like gifts. Like it's not ours, but it's ours for a time. It's on consignment. And I have gratitude for it. So that's what this usually ends on for me, this stanza. How about you?
I mean, he said, hate gets me distant from my spiritual place. So we will get dragged by bad emotions away from who we actually are. It's spiritual waste, basically. And that's the lines that stood out. And bodies on consignment. We are on assignment. Return them to the circus. So
Yeah,
our thing is to like be those actors in the world, and all of it is a circus. But who's the beholder of that circus? Who is like watching it?
Who's the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, the circus reference, I don't have a good framing for it. Like I don't know how he's meaning it. But it makes me think back to this is a little odd, freak shows. They were always part of the circus, like sort of olden days circus, where you'd say, here's an oddity. And sometimes it would be animals or something unusual, but it would
lady
often be
with a beard or stuff.
Yeah, it would often be people. And they're like, here's a deformed human that basically, if they were to just go about their normal lives, especially back in the day, it wasn't going well for them. But as part of the circus, they could be part of the show. And of course, then they would get to know the other people in the circus and they would have a family. And the fact that they had some deformity, like I'm thinking Elephant Man level thing, they would be part of that circus. So I see it as like, I think of that aspect of circus as something that's like not one of the more endearing qualities of humans, that we're drawn to these things as spectacle. And of course, it's super dehumanizing. So anyway, that's for me. There's a lot of circus stuff going on around the word circus. That and clowns.
I think that's relatable to an artist part of him. Artists, they're born to perform for others. And so everything is kind of a stage. And each time he says, return them to the circus. For the artist, all his life is a stage for others, is a performance. That's how they live. Like he could not have seen the reality in any other way as a stage. So like each time, like when he said return them to the circus, our bodies on assignment, it felt relatable because I know what you're talking about, man. That's exactly how I feel. It's like this entire song is like the dude understands exactly how I feel.
There's so many parts, and we could be deluding ourselves in any given part. I think the author, I'm not even sure that the author knows right? Like the words worked, the lyrics worked, he reworked it or she reworked it, or they reworked it. It could actually have been a group. And then there's what we make of it, like how we find a way that it fits with our understanding of the world, which itself is changing over time. And
You
there's
do
just a lot
line by
of,
line for projections.
yeah, there you go. What do I project in this stanza?
Exactly.
But it's still, I mean, as long as it's still useful exploration, I find,
Yeah.
like what it means to you is what you're letting it mean to you. And that's the reason I chose the song, is because, I use it in that context.
Yeah, it's like a Rorschach test for us.
There you go. What do you see in this picture behind me?
Exactly.
Here we go. And what is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose? And would you believe it? Would you believe it if you knew what you were for and how you became so informed?
It's my favorite part. Like I keep drifting away each time he sings that part.
Uh-huh.
Especially the next part after that. But like this is the questioning reality thing, which I relate to as well. But then the moment we find out what reality is, would we actually believe it? And all
Yeah.
the signs from the outside that kind of taught us what reality is.
The idea of would you believe it, it's like baiting is not quite the right word, but it's sort of inviting you. It's like, if you believed it, then that would you be your reality. If you believed it. And so it's sort of, to me, it kind of points at that, that you have, I don't want to say control over your beliefs, but you can steer.
And how you became so informed. Bodies of info performing such miracles. I'm a miracle made up of particles. And in this existence, I'll stay persistent and I will make the difference and I will have lived it. That's just like blows my mind how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
It also sung so beautifully, like it's the most...
The way the music and these lyrics come together is just wonderful. Like, it's building and it's got dramatic sections and the tone's changing, the pace is changing. So much going on in this song.
Yeah.
The idea that, at first when I saw made up of particles, I thought, oh yeah, it's kind of a neat conceptual idea. And then I realized it's like, and it's actually true. Even if you want to get super scientific-y and say, protons and neutrons, and then they're in a certain pattern, and here I am.
Even if we dig further into those particles, even particles made up of something, they are not just particles. You can zoom in even deeper. Ultimately, it's all energies.
Yeah.
Like this was the latest theoretical physics of where we came from. But
I love it when you drill like further and further down, and I don't understand the physics at the bottom. I'm not sure anybody does, but if it gets down, they're like, and then it's random, and then there's quantum fluctuations, and yeah, there's still like a mystery layer. Like beyond that, so far we can't see. And then when consciousness got involved, when the waveform starts changing from particles to waves because you looked at it, and I'd still love to see that experiment in person someday. That just messes with your mind.
What do you think
know
about? Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like it kind of this never cease to excite my mind somehow. What do you think about bodies of info performing such miracles? Like, I was thinking about we are atoms that are able to contemplate the fact that we are atoms. That's why it's like we get all this information and then we become self-aware that this is who we are. And that's what I read into the line, bodies of info performing such miracles.
To me, there's this transition. You know, nature's making up all these physical particles in different patterns to form everything, trees and animals and people and dirt and all that. And that's like on the physical level. And then atop of that, we've got a capacity to just deal with pattern directly in the form of information. And, you know, however much we can hold in our heads, or, you know, now using computers to help remember things. So we're doing the same thing that physical nature has always done, which is growing in complexity, but now we're doing it in the mental space, and we're going further. And so this idea of us being information itself, you know, like the pattern, that's what I'm reading there when he says bodies of info performing such miracles as being a person. And then I am a miracle made up of particles. And in this existence, I'll stay persistent while I'm here, and I'll make a difference, and I will have lived it. And that, man, that's like a call to action.
It's also purpose.
Mm.
It's the meaning.
To make a difference, to say, you know, and that difference is you saying, this is me, this is my ad while I'm here, while I'm persistent. My ad to that big info thing that we're all building.
Yeah. I have challenge for the people who watch it. Write down what you associate, project, and translate the next lines, which would be Aloha Ke Akua, Aloha Kuleana Kuleana. Because except love for God and love for freedom, I could not find anything.
Okay. So who do you think, so aloha is a greeting, right? And the saying of goodbye, hello and goodbye. So who do you think the author is talking to?
From what I gathered from Google Translate, that Aloha Ke Akua would be I love you, God. Like, it's not only greeting, it's the expression of affection and love. And that's why I would like people who know a little bit more about it. I can tell you what I see because I'm mildly traumatized at the moment. When I hear Aloha Ke Akua and the way he sings it, I actually reach out to the people I haven't seen in a long time, and I give them a hug. And it gets me to a place of sadness. That's why also the way he sings it, like this turned, emotional, kind of slightly broken voice, helps me to feel that, what I project onto it. What images come up for you when you hear that Aloha Ke Akua?
As you're saying your thing, I was thinking that as opposed to like hello, it's more like a recognition of a connection to. And then I just saw Avatar several times recently because I bought the DVD, and they have this thing in there that they do, which is I see you. And so this is like the author seeing Gaia, seeing creation, seeing, you know, and connecting to it. That's the aloha, like, oh, hello, like I forgot you were there, and now I'm reconnecting to you. And of course, doing that to all your old friends and people you haven't seen in a while is the same thing. Like it's like a reflection of that, like on a personal level. So that's when he says aloha, that whole phrase, I'm with you, like that, the tone of it. Something about connection and love and singing with the other. And then we come to this part. Well, I'll read it first. Each day that I wake, I will praise. I will praise. Each day that I wake, I give thanks. I give thanks. And this, I mean, it's a gratitude prayer, and it brings me back to the consignment thing earlier, where you're like thanking somebody, something, that you're alive.
Yeah.
And just the framing of that is useful, especially for people who think they're atheists. Like, do you have no connection to anything that's bigger than yourself? And, ask that question seriously, and you probably come back with answers that you need to think about.
I mean, he's grateful for the people. Like when I hear it, like in combination with aloha, and each day I wake up, I give praise, I give thanks. It feels to me like he's grateful for the people in his life somehow, and he's grateful for being alive, like for being in this spot, in this place, even with that choppy perception of reality.
Right.
I do believe project that he is grateful for the people. Yeah,
I like that conception too.
okay, next, which like this line actually hit me hard. And the day that I don't wake up and transcend the holy makeup, I'm capable, I'm a powerful. And the day that I don't make up and transcend the holy makeup, I'm on my way to a different place. Like, that's so beautiful.
Isn't it a lovely expression of death? Death is, we're like, oh no, death. And then this is sort of like a positive advertisement.
Transcending holy makeup.
Yeah, you're like,
Wow.
this assembly of the particles that is the miracle, that is you, that is your realization that you're alive, whatever that means. You're like, that's the holy makeup. And at some point, it will dissolve. But in the meantime, I am capable, I am powerful. And then when I transcend that, then I'll be on my way to a different place. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah. It does have magical powers somehow for me. Each time I hear it, it's like affirmation of the power that I have.
Just hearing the word powerful when people speak it like that, it just makes you go like, yeah, I could get a little bit of it. I'm not a leader, just a creature seeking the features of a teacher. Whether you follow, whether you lead, all mysterious ways of nature, and I'm into it. Changing management. Man, that's like the part of this song. And he's a different version of this where he gets really, it's a little more rappy, which isn't really my speed, but like his going against something and saying, I'm going to push it a given way. I'm going to stand up. That's all in there.
I think he's submitting here. He becomes,
Oh, yeah?
Yes. So changing management, whether you follow or whether you lead, all mysterious ways of nature, I'm into it. Changing management. Like, I think he's submitting to the others. It's the song is expression of his affection for other people. and he's allowing them to lead him. It gets into Tao Te Ching for me, into everything, into a lot of kind of philosophical ways of perceiving reality. It will take too long to discuss it, but I do feel it's submitting.
The changing management part, to me, I had a run-in with Ian McGilchrist online, just seeing his videos, and then I listened to one of his audiobooks, and I purchased the second one. I haven't gotten all the way through it. It's like really big. The Matter with Things is the name of one of the books. But in it, he talks about left, right brain stuff a lot. And the Master and His Emissary was the first book. And so this changing management thing strikes me as the Master and His Emissary because of that, in the sense of, so the Master and the Emissary is when sort of your left brain, the story is that the master of the town, of the empire, discovered that it was too much to rule directly, and so had an emissary that would go out to instruct people farther away. And it was this trusted person that he trained and so on, and taught everything that he knew. And so he sent out the emissary. And then eventually the emissary, being independently and having to do all the things that you do as the emissary of the master, you're acting as the master locally. And eventually you forget, and you think you're the master. It's the story of the master and the emissary. And you're not actually a very good master. You just think you are. And so in the left-right brain thing, the right brain is, he conceives of the right brain as the master, and the left brain as the emissary that thinks that it's the bomb, that it's got it all worked out. And so it's taken over. And so this changing management thing, there's echoes of that in there for me, that you are recognizing that you were living under the, living as the emissary and thinking you were the master. You're actually both.
But I
you're
like
changing management.
Yeah. I like that phrasing. I'm not a leader, just a creature seeking features of a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the song changes based, and changing management. It's like he is admitting to who he is and his desire to learn more.
And yeah, he's not trying to be the leader. I mean, there's several places in here he dodges that. And that's a sentiment that, for a variety of psychological reasons, resonates with me. But the idea of, seeking the features of a teacher, these are ideas that resonated, which is why I chose this song. Or maybe it chose me.
The song chose both of us. And there are various ways to conquer this monotonous metropolis. My stubbornness is bottomless. My fearlessness is taking shit. And I'm wide awake and I'm taking names. Like, I'm completely confused by that part.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, I like this part.
Explain it to me.
This is, well, I don't know if it's how it was meant. This is going to be me projecting. But the, this is like going into fight mode. This is where you just like, all right. And he's like, there's various ways to conquer this monotonous metropolis. It works in his rap. This monotonous metropolis. My stubbornness is bottomless. In other words, I'm going to keep doing this. That's how stubborn I am. My fearlessness is taking shit. It's like, don't care, I'm afraid, but whatever. And then I'm wide awake and I'm taking names. Is just sort of, saying, I see what's going on and I'm taking notes. And so for me, when I see that, I look at a lot of stuff going on in society right now with, I have a US perspective because I'm here, but just a lot of stuff where I can't claim to have any special understanding of it, but you can tell that there's all sorts of shenanigans going on left and right, up and down, and nobody's getting held responsible. And that doesn't go anywhere good long term. So this idea of I'm wide awake, it's like I'm wide awake to that. Like you can look at that and not make it into a conspiracy theory and just go like, nah, that's happening. It's not good. The taking names part, that's really in your face. That's like somebody will be held accountable.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you speak to me like you speak to God? All of the love and understanding between the Father and the Son. Do you believe in the perfectness of where you are? These are my people. These are my children. This is the land that I would fight for. Again, that goes to the previous paragraph where he's like, we have to fight if we want this, if we want to change things. We have to stand up for it.
Yeah, he gets into society, right? Here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he transcends who I am, and he comes to the society. Like through the song, I see this development. He was inside himself. Then he went to the appreciation of the other. Now he went to metropolis stubbornness, like the awareness of the things around him. And now he's actually addressing the society as a whole.
Yes.
These are my people, these are my children. So he becomes the kind of a little bit messiah prophecies, like I don't know, but I think he transcended his human form and like went into helping the society and the leader thing.
I think that spirit of that where, like if somebody's at war and they're like, no, like this is this is my home, this is our home, and there's an invading force and they're going to fight like mothers, literally, to save the children, to save the traditions, to save the place. Like they have a connection to the place. And so this is like an invitation of saying, like, do you believe in the perfectness of where you are, and that these are your people and these are your children, and that this is the land that you will fight for? This is like a rallying of the troops.
Yeah.
To, have people ask that question of themselves. Jordan Peterson would like it.
Hashtag Jordan Peterson.
Hashtag Jordan. Sorry, we'll mention all the greats. Let's get to get a Peugeot in here somewhere. Maybe a Vander Clay.
I follow Paul on Twitter. My solidarity is telling me to patiently be moving the musical medicine around the planet in a hurry, because there is no time to wait. I gotta wake up the people, time to stand up and say, we know what we are for and how we became so informed. So he like, there is a loop-de-loop. He's like, he learned who he is and how he became so informed, and that he's a miracle and made up of particles. And now he goes into society and he's trying to teach them that we know now what we are here for and how we became so informed. And further, there will be repeat lines that I'm a miracle made up of particles. I skipped that line.
I'm going to hear this song next time I hear this song. I want to hear it somewhat differently now. Because
that's what we are here for.
Indeed.
So he
developed.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is Akua, Aloha Ke Akua.
Yeah, but don't you think that there is no time to wait? Why is he saying that?
This was one where when I saw it, we talk about projection, like we were at the beginning of COVID. And so I was in COVID and pandemic and what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff. And, rules were changing and people were locking down and all that was going on. And I thought, oh man, they just wrote this song. And then when I looked it up, I'm like, no, it's been around for like a decade. So this idea of, he's trying to wake up the people, then
Yeah.
It's not really a protest song, but it's a wake up it's a wake up call to people. And I'm not sure what the context, like it was environmental or what the primary cause was, but it's really nice that it's not specific and it can be applied to, it's the general sentiment. It could be applied to your present moment. It spans time like that. Whereas if it were about a particular protest or a particular person in a particular time, it would be, you get overly focused on that and think, oh, it's just about that. And here the song is about the general idea of waking up to the present moment, to your life.
I like how he says, my solidarity is telling me patiently to be moving the musical medicine around in a hurry. It's like, that's the singer part that I relate to. He's an artist and a singer and a musician, and that's the only way he can serve others. Like the moment he learned the truth and discover about who he is, and like he's this miracle, and he wants to tell it to everybody.
Right.
It's like, guys, I learned that new thing. Like I want to do it, to tell you as fast as possible, because we are so finite. But there are galaxies that will remain. Like there is this excitement in that song that I massively adore.
The idea of it is being musical medicine.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that, like there was no, or heard that, I should say, there was no reluctance to accept that. It was just like, yeah, that's what this is. This is his contribution, his solidarity with the how do I call it, awakening movement.
Yeah. Subscribe. Mm-hmm.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly.
And so part of this for me, for this song, was that music brings people together and it gives like a common point of reference. And so I'm constantly looking for music that represents this time, this age, this struggle of waking up, and this song fit the bill, and it felt a little anthem-y to me.
Yeah. Excellent.
For our server.
Yeah. Again, Algernon, thank you for introducing me to that song, and subsequently all the line by line audience. Thank you for Free Time. That's the sponsor. It's like really valuable. Guys, if you would like to further interact with Algernon, find him on Awakening from the Meaning Crisis Discord server. The links are provided below. And further on, if Algernon will provide us with links to his art, I will hold you accountable to the idea of creating a gallery, even on Instagram. I don't know, even
this is,
yeah,
it struck me that we're as long as we've been doing this Discord server, we don't have a gallery.
Yeah,
and we've got like some section in there that's supposedly, I don't know, like share your other stuff, which is not a gallery. Like there should be a thing called gallery, and it's the artwork of the people in the community.
Hopefully by the time you join the Awakening from the Meaning Crisis server,
then there will be a gallery.
Exactly.
And if you want to look at some of my artwork, and hopefully lots of other creative people who are on the server,
it's gorgeous.
What a great way to share stuff, and we can share a little, talk about them on there. Discord, for those of you who are just coming from YouTube space, it seems really scary, but it's not. It's like free Zoom with text channels. So
exactly,
there's people there, like real human thinking people, and you can interact with them. It's amazing. It's not just broadcast. And
we are not sponsored by any of those. We're just broadcasting it absolutely for free using our actual sponsor free time. Okay.
We're just doing this because, well, it's personally enriching and kind of like the author of this song. We're spreading the musical medicine around the world.
Exactly.
Line by line.
So thank you and bye.
Thank you.
And the most liked comment for that video provided below. All comments are turned off.
What?